This video is brought to you by Bodywork by Kristen. We are an exclusive sponsor at the IXCR Race Series in Indiana. Come visit us on Vendor Row before your race to see how we can help you get to the finish line faster. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more videos like this one. Alright, back to the project of getting this differential broken down and now put back together. I've got all my RCR Sandcraft Motorsports parts. Got a new cage, new bearings. I didn't show this on video, but I did replace all these bearings on the output shafts, so the left and the right side. And I also replaced the bearing on the pinion. You can see this one was pretty much trashed. It had fallen apart inside, and that's what caused all the problems. So as you can see, I've already put that bearing in there. It's nice and quiet. So the only thing I have to do now is put in a new pinion shaft seal and get that into place. But I just wanted to show you that new bearing. And while we're talking about bearings, make sure that you buy bearings that are bought in the United States, because the quality of steel and the quality of bearing is a higher standard than the ones that you get from China. So do yourself a favor and get yourself some made in the USA bearings. So I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the inside here, not on the outside. I'm going to keep that dry because I want this seal to stick in there and stick into place, but I want this to slide through the shaft. So I'm putting a little bit of grease on here just so that it slides in a little bit better. And should be able to just press this on for the most part. And I can use a little bit of assistance with a soft mallet rubber hammer. You want to make sure that's flush all the way around the edge there so that no fluid can get past that seal, and you can see it's nice and tight in there. It seals that in there real good. Alright, so that's in there nice and good. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of grease here. These are new seals. I'm going to put a little grease on here just so that slides in there a little bit better. While I'm greasing things up, I'm going to go ahead and do this side. These are all new seals that comes in the bulletproof RCR kit. All right. So I'm going to install the right-hand output hub into the gear case housing. And that one, you remember from the last video, was the bigger of the two. So it's got this extra piece in here and it has the plastic washer. And that comes into play when your cage goes in there. It'll kind of set on that plastic washer there. So you can see how that would be in there. So this is, I put a bunch of lube on these so that it would make it nice and easy for it to go in. There you go. Let's see how that seal went right in there. Looks good. Okay. So we can start putting our gear ring in there. So this will be the clutch housing. And before I put that in there, we need to put in the Sandcraft dowel pin. That's the solid pin. The stock pin is hollow, rolled metal. And this is what makes this a little bit more bulletproof, because this pin is solid and it will not break. And it goes right here in this little hole. It's tapered. So I'm just getting a long bolt and a nice hammer. I'm going to get this put in there. It's tapered, so it'll stop when you get it all the way in. So that's a nice solid piece of metal that's not going to break. And that's another thing that helps bulletproof this diff, is getting that piece put on there instead of using that stock roll pin. I'm just going to put a little bit of lube on everything here. There's a little plastic washer, don't forget that. Hands are a little slippery, so I'm going to wipe them off so I can see if I can turn this. I'm still having a little trouble trying to get this seated right in the spot where it needs to be in. So I'm going to use this screwdriver to help get it in place. Alright. So that's in there. And everything's looking good so far. Now I'm going to, everything's moving freely, and now I'm going to end up putting this sprag cage in there. But what I'm going to do is get the rollers on there, and I'm going to use some hair ties to keep the rollers in place so that when I drop it in there, it'll fall right into place. And here's my new H clips, because if you remember from the other video, these were all damaged, so I ended up having to order these separately, and these are not a Polaris part. You cannot go to the Polaris parts site and buy these H clips. I had to go to a aftermarket, and I ended up ordering 2 different sets because one place had them on back order, so I didn't want to risk not having them, so I ended up getting 2 sets, but I can use those in the future if I need to. If I have to break apart this diff again and find out that all the H clips got ruined again, and I'll have a whole nother set. So just one by one, I'll just put these rollers in there, and my little hair tie is going to keep those in place. So when I drop this in, all the rollers will be in place. And there's 24 of these. Okay, that's the top. I'm going to put in the bottom ones. Some sprag carriers come with a plastic sheathing over the top that holds all the rollers in, but if you don't have that, this is one way that you can do it. Alright, so all those rollers are in. Just going to lube this up so that they slide down in there better. One already fell out. Two fell out. All right, so that worked out pretty good. All right, that's the that was the bottom ones. Let's see if I can't work on getting this over the top ones. All right. All right, so I'd say that was pretty effective. Everything's still moving freely. Got my hair ties back. All right. I got to get my torsion spring on here. It goes one on each side of that. And when you're installing this, this is the this is a retainer. This is a retainer that goes on the top, and it goes basically right in there with everything else. You gotta line that up with the torsion spring. So that little pin right here, it's got to go in between there for everything to line up, and it snaps right into place. Now you get your armature plate, and then you got to make sure the armature plate tabs are fully engaged into the roll cage assembly and that it's resting properly on the torsion spring retainer. So these should all go on that sprag cage. What we'll do is get that to line up there. Now that's all in there. The good thing about this sprag cage and armature plate is there's 12 points of contact. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Which on the stock one, there's not 12 points of contact. So again, we're making this a lot more bulletproof and more sturdy when it takes those big hits. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and install the left-hand hub into the side so that I know that it's seated in there. Make sure I put a little lube on here. not quite seating in there the whole way, so I'm going to just give it a little tap. There we go. You can see how that's seated in there really good now. Alright, I'm gonna put some more lube on here. Alright, at this point, we got everything put together. And I'm actually going to put a little bit of grease on the outside of this O-ring, just so that we don't get any water in here. Just say you should replace the O-rings, and I didn't on this one. All right. Since I have this open and I want to go ahead and fill it up with fluid, they say it's recommended to use the Polaris demand drive fluid in these. So I'm going to stick with that. I do have some AMSOIL chain case gear oil. That's what was in here. That was kind of lubing everything up. It almost has the same consistency. It looks a little bit different. They recommend to use the Polaris brand just because of the weight of the fluid. So this front differential case only takes 8.5 ounces or 250 milliliters, so it's not very much. So at this point I can go ahead and fill up my differential with this because we have all new seals in here, and that'll save me from having to do that. When I install it back onto the machine. Alright, the last step is to put on the cover. All right. Everything's still moving freely inside, and a good sign is that this output shaft's not engaged. Before I broke this apart, when I was turning the output shaft, the hubs were moving with it, so that gives me an indication that it's not stuck in four-wheel drive anymore. So that's good. So now I just replace all these 10mm bolts. And these bolts, or cover plate screws is what they call it, is 9 foot per pound. Just hand tightening these down. Let me get these close before I use the torque wrench. Alright, these screws are getting torqued down to 9 foot per pound. Alright, those are all torqued down. So now we have completed our project and rebuild of our front differential. And now it's bulletproofed and ready for the season. Now all I'll have to do is get this back into the machine. see how everything's working. Alright, well, thanks for watching. If you like the content of this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That way you'll get notified when I post new videos. You guys have a good one.